This isn't just something that happened and Jesus left you to just kind of, accept it and there's no evidence at all. Listen, this week on Tuesday, I lost a friend. 59 years old, died in his sleep. And somebody told me about it and I was shocked when I heard it, right? But if they called me back 2 days later and said, actually, that didn't happen, he's alive, I would think, listen, I'm either going to ignore that person the rest of my life because they're kind of a lunatic, or I'm going to have to investigate this and check it out. So Jesus said he would die and he would rise again. The scriptures record that that's exactly what happened. Do you believe it? Matthew says that the angel was talking to the two Marys and invited them to check it out for themselves, right? He said, I know who you're looking for. He's not here. He's risen. And he told you this. So come check it out. In Mark's gospel, we know that the women on their way to the tomb, they were like, who's going to move this stone? We're not strong enough to move the stone. We need some help. But the angel did that, and it made me realize, why did the angel move the stone? Was it because Jesus needed to get out? I mean, was Jesus in there laying dead, and God raised him back to life, and he's like, man, I'm alive, but nobody knows. He's knocking on the stone hey, I need out. And so they moved it? No. Jesus didn't need help getting out of the tomb. The stone was rolled away so that the two women could get in. And they could check it out. Because God knows something about you and I. We're going to have some doubts in life. And we're just like these ladies. But he provides proof for our mind. If you look at all of the credible scholars who write and study the resurrection, both Christian and non-Christian alike, they all share about 3 facts that are true about the resurrection. Number 1, they believe Jesus died. He literally died. The Bible writers tell us that he breathed his last in the Gospel of Luke and John. And then there's other writers who aren't in the Bible, like a historian named Josephus that wrote about it. They say, yeah, this guy, Jesus of Nazareth, he was a real man, lived a life, and he died. They believe that. The second thing credible scholars believe is that Jesus' his followers, believe that he rose from the dead. These guys were willing to die for it. As a matter of fact, one guy wrote about this. His name was Chuck. And he worked for President Nixon in his presidency way back when. Remember President Nixon that didn't go well, Watergate, the whole scandal and everything? This is what he said. I know the resurrection is a fact, and Watergate proves it to me. Because 12 men testified they had seen Jesus raised from the dead for 40 years. They never denied it. They were beaten, tortured, stoned, and killed. Watergate took 12 of the most powerful men in Washington, D.C., and they could not keep alive for 3 weeks. There's some truth to this. Scholars believe, Jesus' followers believed, that he rose from the dead. And they were willing to go to pretty extreme measures for it. The third fact about the resurrection that credible scholars believe, yeah, they believe Jesus died. Yeah, they believe that his followers believed he rose again. They also believe there's an empty tomb. 3 days after Jesus died, there is no body. They can't produce a dead body. And let me tell you, more than anything in the world, the religious leaders and the Roman government, they wanted to produce a body because that would just make all of this go away. And they couldn't do it. Abraham Lincoln was probably the most famous president, or one of the most famous presidents in our country's history, right? 22 years after he died, people thought he wasn't in the tomb, so they dug up his tomb. He was still in there. 14 years later, they do it again, still in there, right? 3 days later, they can't find a body. Luke in his gospel says that Jesus resurrected and appeared to more than 500 people. Jesus did not just do this and leave you wondering. He gave us proof for our mind. Are you investigating it? What do you do with this? Did it happen? Is it real?